Taiwan is a small island off the southeastern coast of China, wedged between the East China Sea and the South China Sea like a crossroads where the continent meets the ocean. People remember Taiwan for modern Taipei, for trains that actually run on time, for night markets that smell of pepper and chili, for bubble tea, for dense green mountains and windswept coastlines. But what really shapes a society isn't what gets printed on posters. It's the small rules nobody advertises, how women live behind the doors of family life, and why a place that looks this modern can still be quietly steered by very old cultural codes. So if you want to know Taiwan beyond a cup of bubble tea or a plate of stinky tofu, don't click away yet, because from here, Taiwan starts to show itself as a society running on very real unwritten rules, with women right at the center of it. Number 15. Postpartum confinement, yuezi. No hair washing or showering for nearly a month after giving birth. If you go deeper into Taiwanese family life, you'll quickly hear a phrase that feels both familiar and strange. Yuezi, sitting the month. It's not just folk medicine. It's a whole social way of protecting a new mother through a very specific set of rules. Keep warm, avoid cold wind, eat blood-building foods, rest as much as possible, and in many households, avoid washing your hair or showering for a certain period. In traditional East Asian medicine, the postpartum period is seen as a time when the body is open, weakened, and more vulnerable to cold. From that perspective, avoiding cold water or limiting bathing isn't about suffering, it's about keeping body temperature stable and preventing lingering chills. But the way it's practiced in Taiwan isn't one size fits all. Some families still follow the old rules strictly. Others adapt in a modern, flexible way. Quick warm showers, thorough drying, or wiping down instead, as long as they keep the core idea of don't let the body get cold. What stays with you isn't the debate over bathing. It's the whole ecosystem around yuezi. Taiwan even has postpartum care centers, private rooms, nurses, weekly meal plans, baby care in shifts. For many young parents, it's a way to balance modern work pressure with real recovery after birth. For older generations, postpartum confinement is still a symbol of being cared for. A mother, a sister, or a mother-in-law stepping in as the one who keeps the fire during the most fragile season. When you tell the story of yuezi, what matters is the spirit behind it. A society can be highly modern and still reserve a ritual space for motherhood. In that space, women are both protected and bound, and that tension is exactly what makes the story. Number 14. Amis, Pangka, matrilineal culture. Men move into the wife's home, children follow the mother's line. If you leave Taipei and drive along Taiwan's east coast, letting the road pull you through small villages between mountains and sea, you'll feel something quietly surprising. Here, the story of family doesn't have to begin with the father's surname. Among the Amis who call themselves Pangka, traces of matrilineal life still shape how the community sees lineage and continuity. In the familiar East Asian imagination, marriage often follows a procedure. The bride moves into the husband's family, children take the father's name, and the paternal side becomes the main axis. But in some traditional Amis communities, you'll hear a different logic. Women are the anchor of the clan. Children are tied to the mother's line. After marriage, a man may move closer to or into the wife's community. Marriage stops being a story of the groom's family taking in a bride, and becomes a way of weaving relationships around the women's side. Locals talk about this in a very practical tone, not as a manifesto. For them, it's not a battle of who has more power, it's how the community stays stable. Women are tied to the home, to daily rhythm, to family memory. The maternal line becomes a red thread that's easier to hold in a tightly bound community. When a man enters his wife's household, he isn't just marrying one person, he's learning to step into a structure that existed before him, learning the right kinship language, understanding his place in a wider network. What makes this model unforgettable is how softly but deeply it flips your assumptions. You look at a family and start wondering, if continuity sits on the mother's side, how does that change child-rearing, caregiving, and the way women define their own value? Here, women aren't reduced to support roles. They appear as the ones who keep the community's bloodstream running quietly, steadily. Taiwan isn't just a modern island of subways and city lights, it's also a place where multiple rules of family coexist, and Pangka is one chapter people remember, because it forces you to rethink what you once assumed was normal. Number 13. Japanese-era Taipei. Banquet culture and a class of Japan-Taiwan hybrid female performers. Taipei at night today is all bright streets, engines, voices, and a rhythm that feels like it never stops. But if you peel back that modern layer, you touch a complicated urban memory from the Japanese era: banquet culture, entertainment spaces with their own rules, and the emergence of a class of female performers. The first thing to understand is this: it's not a story meant for shock value. It's the history of a performing profession that stood between art and service. In banquets where money and connections gathered, refinement wasn't just in the food or the drink, it was in the atmosphere. These women were trained to sing, play instruments, dance, hold conversation, and keep the mood flowing. They turned a dinner into a kind of social ritual, where words and gestures were carefully calibrated so no one lost face. When people in Taipei look back on this period, their feelings are often mixed. There's curiosity, because it's a piece of the puzzle for how the city once grew up. But there's also caution, because the profession is easily judged through modern moral lenses, where the line between art, personal choice, and social stigma is always fragile. That's why telling it demands a neutral voice, neither romanticizing nor condemning. What makes it culturally striking is that it reveals a different Taipei. A Taipei of rituals, social choreography, and soft power. And at the center, women are not just objects of attention, they're the subjects of performance skill, a kind of capability that allowed them to survive in public spaces filled with rules. Number 12. Women hold strong political power. Around 41.6% of legislative seats. When people think of Taiwan, they often picture bubble tea, night markets, or tech. But there's one detail that makes anyone interested in society pause. Women appear in Taiwan's politics at a notably high rate. That number isn't just an achievement, it reflects how the society has widened the question of who gets to represent. What's interesting is that women in Taiwanese politics don't come in a single mold. Some rise from civil movements, some from professional governance, some represent local communities, and some become prominent in welfare, education, labor, or equality issues. When women enter power spaces, they don't automatically bring a female lens to every policy, they bring a diversity of lived experience and problem-solving styles. Locals often look at this very pragmatically. They can feel proud of the progressive image, but they still ask bluntly, how competent are they? What do they solve? Do they truly represent people? That makes the story less like a slogan and more like real life. In a society where politics is heavily scrutinized, women aren't favored simply for being women, they compete on a genuinely demanding stage. And still, the cultural impact is clear. A child growing up in Taiwan becomes used to seeing women in decision-making roles, on policy debates, as the public face of authority. That normalization matters because it reshapes what society imagines as possible. Taiwan may move fast in institutions, but everyday life for women can still carry heavy invisible burdens. Number 11. The Amis lover's bag, alufo, a bag as a signal of affection. In many cultures, love is told through words, but in Amis memory, some emotional messages are passed through an object, a bag. Alufo is often referred to as a lover's bag, and what makes it special is that it ties affection to handmade labor. A bag doesn't appear in minutes. It's time, patience, and skill woven into shape. When something is made by hand, it carries the maker's story, every stitch, every join, every correction. So if a lufo is given as a sign of affection, what's being given isn't just an item, it's a piece of life, a stretch of time the maker has spent on someone. Love here has real weight, not measured by price, but by effort. Today, locals hold alufo with layered meaning. For older generations, it can be a memory of how people expressed, chose, and bonded. For younger people, it can be a symbol of identity appearing in festivals and cultural events as a way of saying, we have our own language. But there's also a careful line. Culture can be consumed if outsiders only see it as something exotic. That's why many locals want the story to travel with the object, understand first, then look. In a world where feelings can be reduced to texts and emojis, the bag reminds you that some communities still believe in proving affection through steady action. And it places women in an active position, not waiting to be chosen, but creating the symbol and sending the message through skill and time. Number 10. Taiwan's paradox. High gender equality rankings, but heavy invisible burdens still remain. Taiwan is often described as progressive on gender equality, high female political participation, broad access to education, modern urban life. But if you step away from the indexes and into an apartment where a family actually lives, you meet something hard to measure: invisible burdens. They're tasks that aren't named as labor, but without them, everything collapses. These burdens often live in care. Caring for a child isn't just feeding and holding them, it's school schedules, vaccination dates, sleep routines, emotions, and hundreds of tiny decisions. Caring for elders isn't just taking them to appointments, it's managing medication, listening to repeated stories, and carrying long seasons of fatigue. In many households, the person who remembers everything and handles everything is a woman. They don't just do tasks, they manage the system, a kind of mental labor with no time card. Locals don't see this in black and white. Many younger couples try to share housework and treat care as a joint responsibility. But long work hours, urban pressure, and the cost of caregiving services make equal sharing hard to stabilize into routine. So the paradox appears. The society can look very progressive on paper, while daily life still drags women toward traditional roles. This story sticks because it makes you look again at things that seem small. A meal, a reminder text, one trip to the clinic. They look ordinary, but they're where equality is truly tested. And in Taiwan, women are often the ones making life run long before any slogan can matter. Number 9. Bubble tea and the origin legend linked to a woman in a product development meeting. Not every national symbol is born from palaces or victories. Some begin in a very ordinary moment. A meeting, an experiment, one bold idea. Bubble tea has several origin stories, but one version people love to remember goes like this. During a product development meeting, a woman casually dropped tapioca pearls into her tea, and a small playful choice turned into a global trend. What matters is this. Whichever version is closer to the truth, the spirit of the story feels very Taiwanese. This is a society that can turn everyday habits into culture. Bubble tea isn't just a drink, it's a rhythm. It shows up after school, after work, in quick meetups, in moments standing under an awning waiting out the rain. People hold a cup of boba like they're holding a small piece of comfort from the city. Locals see boba with a kind of quiet pride. It's familiar, not performative. Some drink it because they crave it, some because it's routine, some as a personal reward ritual. And in a modern world that constantly demands speed, a cup of boba can become a tiny pause, a few minutes where you let yourself slow down. Number 8. More women choosing not to marry or have children as a way out of gender role scripts. In Taiwan cities, a shift has been happening quietly but clearly. Many young women no longer see marriage and motherhood as mandatory. This isn't a story to judge right or wrong, it's a new social logic. As life gets more expensive and work rhythms stretch longer, marriage starts to look like a risk, not only emotionally, but structurally. If you listen closely, the fear often isn't about love itself, it's about the gender role script. Many women look at the older generation and realize how easily a woman can end up working 2 shifts. Shift 1 is the job outside. Shift 2 is the caregiving inside children, elders, and countless unnamed tasks. Without strong support systems, voluntary turns into automatic, and automatic is what wears people down. Reactions in Taiwan are mixed. Older generations may feel worried about aging, loneliness, the loss of family order. Younger people often see it as practical. They prioritize personal stability, mental health, and autonomy. Many women aren't rejecting love. They're setting clearer conditions. The relationship must be equal, responsibility sharing must be real, and caregiving can't default onto one person. Not marrying or not having children isn't necessarily an attack on society. Sometimes it's self-protection from a structure whose cost they can already see. And the real question becomes, what happens to a society when more women step away from the old script not because they're cold, but because they're clear-eyed? Number 7. Marriage as negotiation. Housing, stability, and caregiving roles. In movies, marriage is often told as love's happy ending, but in city life, marriage can feel like a long negotiation about housing, finances, jobs, and responsibility for both sets of parents. In Taiwan, where urban pressure is very real, negotiation doesn't mean cold calculation. It means trying to survive a complex equation. This negotiation often hits gender roles. Women are often more sensitive to later life questions. If there's a child, who cares for them? If parents age, who takes the load? If you move, who sacrifices commute and career flexibility? These questions seem distant, but they shape daily quality of life. And because caregiving has traditionally been placed on women, women can't deal with it later without feeling the risk. Taiwan has its own blunt honesty around this. Talking about money, housing, and plans isn't automatically seen as unromantic, many see it as maturity. But when everything becomes a condition, women can feel evaluated like a capability package: age, career, income, looks, and daughter-in-law potential. That's the gray zone of modern society. Clarity prevents suffering, but it can also grind down emotion. This isn't about calling Taiwan practical or romantic. It's about love passing through living conditions and women often being the ones who do the harder math. And once you see that, you realize a modern city isn't only built from steel and glass. Number 6. Pressure to marry and have kids can come from strangers. Casual questions hitting a sensitive nerve. Some pressures don't come from laws or workplaces, they come from a soft, casual question. In Taiwan, like in many East Asian societies, "When are you getting married?" or "When will you have a baby?" can show up as small talk. The person asking may just be trying to be friendly or fill silence. But for the person receiving it, especially women, it can hit the most private nerve. What makes this story sharp is that it doesn't only happen inside families. It can come from coworkers, neighbors, even people you've just met. And because it's said with a just joking tone, it's hard to respond. If you look annoyed, you're labeled sensitive. If you laugh it off, you swallow the discomfort. In a culture that values harmony, many women choose silence, and that silence accumulates into fatigue. Not everyone in Taiwan supports this habit. Younger generations are more aware of personal boundaries and often avoid direct questions, but social habits lag behind awareness. Old questions still survive like cultural footpaths, especially during gatherings, holidays, and shared meals. Taiwan is known for politeness and refinement, but sometimes that refinement makes it hard to say no. If you build this scene, place the viewer inside a real moment, a meal, laughter, and then a question dropped casually. In a modern society, women aren't only navigating big decisions, they're also negotiating small questions with heavy emotional weight. Number 5. The Family Manager Mom. A home that runs like a small company. If there's one image that quickly explains Taiwanese family life to outsiders, it's the mom as manager. Not because she wants control, but because an urban household runs like a system with too many moving parts. Kids' school schedules, elders' medical appointments, bills, meals, supplies, surprise expenses someone has to remember and organize it. In many homes, mothers aren't only doing physical chores, they're doing management work, planning, budgeting, setting reminders, handling small crises before they become big ones. They know who needs what, when, and who can help. It's mental labor, the kind that lives in the mind. You can't see it, but it drains energy as much as manual work. Locals sometimes treat this as normal. A home needs someone to handle things, but that word normal is what makes the role invisible. Many women don't feel like they're doing something big, they're just keeping the home running. And when the home runs smoothly, the labor disappears. Only when they burn out or stop does everyone realize the system doesn't run by itself. It's not romantic or dramatic, but it's the backbone of family life. Women in Taiwan don't only show up in big national stories, they show up as the ones keeping daily life on beat. And sometimes what's most memorable about a society isn't its symbols, but how it's actually kept running every day by a woman's hands and memory. Number 4. Women in the service industry. The smile as an emotional uniform. Tourists often love Taiwan for its service, polite, fast, and genuinely respectful. But great service always has a backside. Workers have to carry emotion as part of the job. In service work, a smile isn't just attitude, sometimes it's a uniform. And in many front-facing roles, the person wearing that emotional uniform is often a woman. This is hard to notice as a customer. You walk into a convenience store, buy something, hear a greeting, and everything flows. But for the worker, smooth is a standard that must be met whether they're tired, sad, or just dealt with a difficult customer. The smile becomes discipline. The voice becomes technique. Patience becomes a skill you train. Taiwanese people have different views on this. Many are kind, say thank you, and respect service workers. But there's also the flip side of customer-centered culture. When society gets used to softness, workers can be expected to endure. The exhaustion isn't only physical, it's the constant need to stay pleasant in every situation. You can tell it neutrally, without blaming anyone, by showing the mechanism of a society that runs on politeness. Convenience has a cost, and the cost isn't only money, it's emotional energy. Women aren't just subjects of tradition or policy. They're the ones making your travel experience feel warm. And sometimes, the smile isn't a feeling, it's work. Number 3. Traditional indigenous facial tattoos. A mark once suppressed, some cultural traces aren't written on paper, they're written on skin. In Taiwan, traditional facial tattooing among certain indigenous communities such as Atayal, Truku, Sidik was once a powerful symbolic language. It wasn't makeup, and it wasn't fashion. It marked adulthood, capability, and position in the community, a way of saying, "You've earned your place." In traditional memory, these tattoos were tied to communal standards. For women, they could be linked to weaving skill, responsibility, and readiness to carry family life. For men, they could be linked to hunting or protective duties. In other words, beauty wasn't separated from ethics and ability. It was beautiful because you've done what must be done, not beautiful because you match a trend. But modern history blurred those marks. Through periods of rule and assimilation, many indigenous customs were labeled backward and restricted. Facial tattooing faded not simply because communities abandoned it willingly, but because of external pressure and stigma. When a symbol is forced to disappear, what's lost isn't only an image, it's an entire cultural yardstick. Today, Taiwan revisits this tradition with care. There are efforts to document it, exhibit it, film it, and restore memory. But there's also caution. Not everything unique should become a tourism product. Many indigenous people want to be seen with respect, understand the meaning before taking a photo. It's a reminder that indigenous women aren't scenery for the landscape. They are cultural subjects once carrying a vow on their faces. And as modern Taiwan learns to look again, the story becomes more than tradition, it becomes about the right of an identity to exist. Number 2. Magay Bari Festival, Truku. The taboo against conflict and the discipline of community harmony. In many indigenous festivals, what tourists see first is the fun, clothing, dances, drums, laughter. But what holds a festival upright is often the unseen part, the taboo system, the shared discipline the community voluntarily follows. For the Truku, Magay Bari is often remembered as a season where the spirit of harmony is held so high that conflict stops being a private matter. In folk understanding, conflict doesn't just ruin the mood, it tears the social thread. In communities historically tied to mountains and mutual dependence, unity is safety. That's why during festival season, people place themselves in a state of restraint. More careful speech, less provocation, less harm. The taboo isn't only about punishment, it's about protecting order. Locals talk about this without mystical exaggeration. They describe it practically. Keep harmony so the community stays steady, the festival stays whole, and everyone passes through an important season without breaking. And in that system, women often play a clear but unnamed role. They keep daily rhythm. They know how to cool tension by changing the subject, pulling people back to the shared meal, reminding gently so no one crosses the line. Some communities maintain order not through police or written law, but through shared commitment. When everyone believes harmony is sacred, behavior shifts. To outsiders, that can feel surprising. In a modern world full of argument, holding your tongue to keep peace sounds both unfamiliar and worth thinking about. It's a story of community discipline and how women often hold the softest thread, yet keep the hardest thing, peace between people. Number 1. Ear cleaning in Taiwan, from a folk habit to a refined ear spa service. Some travel experiences aren't in famous landmarks, but in small services that outsiders might find strange. In Taiwan, ear cleaning can step beyond basic hygiene and become an ear spa service. Camera inspection, careful cleaning, and turning an everyday act into a ritualized moment of relaxation. It sounds funny at first, but look closer and it's a very Taiwanese slice of life, a culture of detail-based care. Ear spa isn't flashy, it's micro-level comfort. You sit still under a small light, the practitioner moves slowly and evenly, and you feel taken care of without needing to say much. In a city life where everyone rushes, a service that forces you to sit still becomes a kind of luxury. The connection to women is simple but real. In many places, the providers are women requiring steady hands, patience, and an ability to create safety. People don't come only because their ears are dirty, but because the experience feels private and soothing. Locals treat it naturally, like a gentle massage, a relaxing shampoo, a soft kind of spa. It reflects a modern need for self-care, quiet but genuine. When people remember Taiwan, they don't only remember places, they remember a feeling. Meticulous care turned into culture. And in that feeling, you notice women's hands again working, caring, shaping some of the most refined, everyday experiences. After these 15 slices, what lingers isn't a simple conclusion that Taiwan is easy or hard. It's the sense that behind a modern island, there are still powerful structures, and women are often standing in the right place to carry, to hold, and to change them. If you'd like, share what surprised you the most and why. And if you enjoy exploring Taiwan through these quieter corners of everyday life, follow the channel so we can keep the journey going. The information in this video is for reference only, so please look into it further before making any decisions.